MarzGurl.
I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 97 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover Season 2, Episode 46 of City Hunter, titled 19-Year-Old Widow, Lover in the Heart of a Beautiful Sketch Artist, Part 2.
I cannot say that anything significant has happened between last episode and this one is just very straightforward, just a very direct follow-up, and if we're lucky, so long as we don't get wildly off topic somewhere in the middle, I think we're gonna make it through this one pretty quick.
We'll just make it real easy here at the top. You know, we've almost done 100 episodes here of this podcast.
Getting pretty close, yeah.
So for those of you that have stuck with us, and also for those of you who are now coming in over on YouTube, thank you for listening, and buy our merch.
The merch tab is kind of buried in there, but it's there. It's there. It's a thing that you can do. You can go and access and you can buy it. It's over on YouTube, over on the buy stuff tab, you know, whatever that's called.
Do that. It is appreciated.
Of course, if you are listening to this on YouTube, it's gonna be many weeks before you actually get to this episode.
Yeah, from what I've seen on average from the people viewing over there, all 30 of you, and I'm wondering if that's even the correct number, to you, I say thank you.
And thanks for watching?
Thank you for watching sound.
I mean, it's video format. Over on YouTube, when you could be catching up in real time, week by week on audio platforms, but you're not doing that.
And you know what? That is your right. You should feel good that that is the way you're going to do it.
I can only assume you just prefer YouTube.
Some people do.
Yeah,
Some people prefer, Spotify. Some people prefer YouTube in the background while they're at work.
You know, we put this on Spotify. I don't necessarily recommend it, but I mean it's
there, is what I'm saying.
If it turns out that that's the only place left you can access it, because apparently my favorite, Google Podcasts, is eventually gonna go the way of the dodo. So
it's eventually going to go the way of physical media at Best Buy.
Oh no, this is where I've been pre-ordering things from because they were the least problematic, which is why I don't recommend Spotify.
Well, actually, that's one thing that is worth mentioning, just tangentially, is that this week Right Stuff went offline. And I can say with a full chest that the last two things I ordered from them was Kamen Rider Black RX and the rest of City Hunter we were missing for this season.
The second half of City Hunter 2.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my send off to them from them. My little gift to us, a little
from us,
to us, from us, from them to
us.
Look, the thing to focus on is I bought City Hunter. That's what I did.
Yeah, putting physical money down on City Hunter
for physical media.
The way that I put physical money down on this Takarazuka City Hunter.
Oh, the program book.
This program book that otherwise, like, I didn't go physically watch that show.
You would have loved to.
I wish I had been there.
With any luck, maybe they'll do a sequel at some point. There's plenty to work with.
A lot of material that they could pull from. And they already pulled from a lot of material for that particular stage production.
I wouldn't entirely put it past them if they're going to announce, just within the last couple of days, that they're doing an adaptation of RRR.
Takarazuka, the all-female musical theater troupe, is doing a production of RRR, and then they released that poster of them doing the Natu dance. I can't imagine what that's gonna look and sound like, because they've got a live orchestra. What is that gonna sound like?
It's gonna sound amazing is what it's gonna sound like.
Crazy.
So if they're willing to do that and do other sequels to other shows, I think they've done more than one, if I'm not mistaken, of
Phoenix Wright.
Wright, yeah, exactly. Then it's entirely possible they could do another City Hunter one. They've got to catch up to Angel Dust 2, I imagine.
Not necessarily, because the stuff that they cover
you're right, because they did cover Nick Angel.
They might not have a reason to do another Takarazuka City Hunter one, because they've already covered all the way to the end of the manga, basically. They already jumped all the way to the end of the manga.
Okay, you know what? Then maybe Angel Heart. How about that? Takarazuka
That would be very
Angel Heart.
strange, but okay.
Look, most of what they do is very strange in some ways.
That's true.
But we digress. So let's go ahead and get into this week's episode, which, of course, this is a two-parter, so we're starting again with a recap. So from last week's episode, we see that Ryo and Kaori went to go visit Makimura's grave, because it's been like 2 years now.
They met this lady who apparently is the widow of the head of a Yakuza family who was like, 40 years her senior or something like that?
He was 59 when he died. She's 19 now.
Yeah, that's too much.
It's too much.
It's too much. Either way, so now she's still basically the head of this Yakuza family just because she married into it for less than a day before that guy died.
And so there's another group that split off from this Yakuza family that is warring with them over this piece of land that consists of a park somewhere in the Tokyo area.
You know, I'm shocked that one thing they did not do in this two-parter narrative is say that these guys who broke off and formed their own family were the reason why that guy who's the head of the family died in the first place. They didn't go there.
No, they didn't. It's just this guy died of natural causes.
Yeah, crazy. That never happens.
No, normally somebody got offed.
Anyway, they're fighting over the ownership of, like, this piece of land in the middle of Shinjuku. It's that park we were talking about. And, like, it belongs to the lady and her Yakuza family, but the other Yakuza family wants it, so they are scheming up this plan like, haha, we're just gonna make her not want the land anymore by burning it down. Then she'll totally give it to us, which I think is a stupid plan in the first place.
But they've been messing with her for the last year or so they're asking Ryo, hey, can you protect her? And he's like, yeah, I can protect her with my boner. And he keeps trying to have sexy time, and that's not a thing anybody wants.
I just sort of feel like it's just not important to her in any way, and like, it's not that she's shutting him down, it's just that it's not even coming up as part of her conversation.
And part of the reason for that is we find out that, one, she is still grieving. She's only been without her husband for about a year now, and she's trying to work it out through her art and painting. Also, she seems to not realize that literally everybody in that Yakuza organization has kind of a crush on her.
I don't know how you can not notice something like that. I'm kind of familiar with that sort of situation too. It's not a super comfortable situation, but you notice it. You notice it real hard.
Yeah, but how often do you just bring up, hey, are all of you guys here under the same roof in love with me?
No.
I'm saying, how often would you as the woman address that openly?
Oh no, you don't. You can't be talking about that.
That's what I thought. Anyway, so that brings us to today's episode, where we're starting off like it's literally any other episode of City Hunter. Ryo seems to have gone to bed, and literally the entirety of this group, the Kanto Kichijogumi, are surrounding his bed and Kaori with them to make sure that he doesn't get up to accost Ayako, only to see that he has burrowed his way out from underneath his tatami mat.
Well, he did a Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny bullshit thing where he cut a hole in the floor and then scuttled away underneath the house. And everybody tries to catch him, and he makes it pretty far. He gets all the way up to Ayako's door before they tackle him, and he's like, "Aw, man, I was actually almost there this time."
He made it almost to the end zone. He did not make it to first down. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't watch football.
I don't know what that means.
So thankfully they've caught Ryo right before he could get to the door, and literally everybody is berating him for even trying. Kaori's saying, don't believe a word he says. He is so good at coming up with BS to justify his actions.
The subtitles even say that she's saying bullshit, but I mean, that's just a choice you make as an English-speaking editor, but to be fair, it's true though. He is just coming up with bullshit. That having been said, he's really good at being technically correct, the best kind of correct.
Yes.
Where he sits here in front of everybody explaining, hey, you gotta let her do what she's gonna do, man. Don't you think the fourth chairman, your old former boss, don't you think he would have been like, no, you should go on and live your own life and don't grieve for me, like you're still so young. You can go out there and be somebody and fall in love with whoever you want to fall in love with. Don't be tied down to me. And she can hear this through the door because he's standing right there.
And literally everybody's, nobody's using their indoor voice. And Ryo's just like, look, I'm the good guy here, alright? She is literally only 19 years old. Let her live. All right?
And everybody's like, actually,
I'm going to introduce her again to joy and love and happiness.
Everybody's kind of like, actually, that's kind of a good point. And he is correct there. It's just that he ends it all by saying, and that's why I'm going to sneak into her room right now, which it's not sneaking. You've just deliberately said exactly what you're going to do. You're just going to walk in there. That's not sneaking.
But he doesn't have to, though, because Ayako just opens the door and kind of slams it in his face by accident.
I mean, that's what he gets for just standing within hitting distance of the door.
And she says, all right, here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow, I'm going back to the park we went to last week, by which I mean last week's episode, and I'm going to try and paint again. And Ryo, you're the only one I want to come with me. Got it?
And then she goes back into her room, and Ryo is like, you see, I win. I'm going out there. You can't stop me. She said so.
And literally, don't follow us tomorrow. We're going to be doing stuff.
But then tomorrow comes, and then nothing's really happening. She's just out there to paint, and Ryo was really hoping, like, it was going to be some one-on-one time, but now he's out there, and he's like, of course it's just painting. Of course it is. So he's just got to sit there on a park bench. Meanwhile, everybody followed them.
Of course they followed them. They weren't going to let him be alone with her. If you are smart, you know not to let Ryo be alone with any sort of vulnerable woman, ever. And the problem is, everybody thinks they're going to get some kind of, like, physical action in one direction or another. The thing of it is, it's actually really, really sad, because Ayako stands there for what I imagine to be at least a good, like, 3 to 6 hours, just standing there with the easel and the canvas in front of her, ready to paint with, it looks like charcoal.
It kind of looks like charcoal to me, yeah.
And she never paints a stroke. Not a single one. She just can't do it.
She's just staring at this canvas, and you can tell hours are passing, because the sky is blue at first, and then the sky kind of darkens. It's kind of a red.
Kind of this umber, orangey color. Sunset. Basically.
The sun is setting, and she's only realizing all these hours later when Ryo walks up to her like, hey, don't you think it's about time to stop? When she's finally like, oh wow, I really couldn't get anything out, oh my god.
But see, this is one of those things where I think he said, don't you think it's time to stop? And he means we should leave.
Yeah.
And she was thinking about something else, and so she goes off in a completely deeper direction, like, you're right, it is time for me to stop mourning, because my husband did tell me he didn't want me tied down to the memory of him. I should move on with my life. And Ryo's like, damn, I just meant dinner. Like, I didn't mean all of that.
But I don't know how to move on with my life. And of course you don't. Like, it's only been a year. I mean, I had to go through some grief therapy myself when I lost my mom, and like, it's really common. You learn that it's really common for people to take about 2 years to go through grief. That's gonna be different for everybody, of course, but that having been said, if you're going for like more than 2 years, like, you might need some deeper therapy, not just like group roundtable discussion, let's all discuss our feelings together kind of therapy, you know?
Well, because I forget what the adage is. It's like for every, I want to say I heard it was like for every year that a person was with you, it takes 4 times that long to get over it, or something like that.
Isn't that just about a breakup, though?
Well, it's kind of the same thing for a breakup or a loss. You're having that person removed from your life.
I mean, that's true.
So, in that regard, I get that, you know, she's still hurting on some level, or on many levels, if it's even affecting her creativity. You know?
Sure, yeah. That's the thing, is that even though I feel like her relationship with a man 40 years older than her is really fucking weird, her feelings are very real.
Yes.
And so, it only having been a year, of course you're still hurt, you're still grieving, and you still haven't totally moved past it.
Because she says to Ryo, there's just too many memories here. They're all just swirling in my head. They're all here in this park. I want to paint. I want to use my art to break free of the cycle. I just can't do it yet. And she's starting to cry there right in front of him, be really vulnerable. And as if that wasn't bad enough already, someone has started an arson and set fire to the park.
And we as the audience know exactly who that was, because they announced that to the audience last week.
Unfortunately, there's going to be a really big to-do in this episode of, we know it was the Itsuka Kai, we know it was them. Yeah, we know it was them. Literally everybody and their mother watching this episode knows it was them. That's not the point. But yeah.
Well, wait, what is the point then?
I have no point.
Thanks.
And so, yeah, the park is on fire, and it looks kind of bad, like, oh god, look at the size of that fire. Ryo snaps into action, and he tells Masaichi, who has been in the bushes next to Kaori this whole time.
And they think they've been hidden this whole time, but no, Ryo has known the whole time they've been there.
Because he has spatial awareness. And he's like, Masaichi, get up there and get some, like, water or something and try and put out this fire. We gotta do something about this. And then that's what snaps Ayako out of it. And she kind of finally, for the first time in the last 2 episodes, takes up that role of the matriarch and starts barking orders at literally the whole Kichijogumi there in the bushes. She's like, hey, everybody, we are the ones who are responsible for this park. We're gonna do right by the people in this park. Get everybody the hell out of here.
And Ryo's like, well, you heard her go. And so we watch as the Yakuza rescue civilians from a fire in the park. You know, like good Yakuza propaganda does.
Or like that one G.I. Joe short.
It's a little less get the fuck out.
Well, I mean, you would be too, like, oh, wait, I always misquote it exactly.
Pork chop sandwiches!
Yeah, pork chop sandwiches.
Holy shit, get the fuck out of here! What the fuck?
Yeah, that's what all the Yakuza are. You're screaming at these people, like, get out of the park.
No, there's a lot less of that, though. There's a lot of piggybacking children on top of really large men's backs.
No, come on. If you know this is a group of grown men in a full-ass Yakuza organization, it's gonna sound more like pork chop sandwiches.
Now I kind of do just want to put that audio on top of this scene.
You should
pork chop sandwiches!
Those old G.I. Joe PSAs will never get old.
No, they really won't, no matter how old they are, because they're old. And then the video is older than the audio is. The whole thing is just very old.
And so we cut away for like 2 seconds just for Otone, the leader of the other group, to be like, haha, we left no evidence.
Bullshit, you left no evidence. How do you leave no evidence of, we know where the fire started? Okay, there's no way they left no evidence.
I mean, you don't have to be that good at arson. Not that I am in any way endorsing doing arson.
But everybody knows it's arson when it's arson. What was it? An electrical fire?
I mean, it could be just as simple as a cigarette not being put out properly, thrown into a pile of bushes.
And that's why they have all those signs all over the ground and the sidewalk saying, hey, don't do that shit.
Now, to be fair, this is a thing about my job. We have a lot of people who smoke at my job, and they keep telling him, hey, stick to the smoking designated areas, don't do that. And some people listen, but more often than not, give them like 3 weeks, and they will literally be putting lit butts in the trash can still lit.
Oh my god.
And I have to go clean up that shit sometimes. Because, you know, they asked me to go help out in that area, and it's like, can you guys not? Like, are you trying to start a fire?
Because these guys were very much trying to start a fire.
And it worked. Because apparently like a third of the park got burned down.
But here's what I'm thinking, right? Their hope was, haha, if we burn this park down, then she's not gonna want the park anymore, and she's just gonna give the land to us. And I'm sitting here thinking, one, that's a stupid plan in the first place, because that doesn't make any sense. But then two, you only lost a third of this park. That seems salvageable to me.
No, I think at a certain point you would want to cut bait when it gets to like over 50% of the park.
Right.
So they didn't burn enough of the park. And the thing about it is, they don't even say that the Kichijogumi was good enough at putting out the fire. We're assuming between the two of us that
it just stopped.
It either stopped or the fire department put it out. They didn't even have to worry about that. They could still rebuild. They could replant.
I'm telling you.
They could put in new swing sets. It's still a park. And even then, the land itself is still valuable.
Exactly my point. Like, why did he think burning some trees or whatever was gonna be enough to make the land not be land anymore? I don't understand.
Well, because there would come in a land grab scheme, there comes a point where you have to try and figure out a way to push the people out that currently have the land. So the thing they tried doing in the last episode was, well, let's see if we can get her to sign over the deed or something, right?
Right.
That doesn't work. So the thing you have to do now is figure out how to kick them out or make them not want the land in a way that doesn't make it invaluable to you, the person trying to steal the land.
But if they didn't burn enough for it to be invaluable to them, why did they think burning only a third of it would make it invaluable to the current owners?
Well, see, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Were they just so bad at it
that
they're
just that bad at it?
So, like,
they're
you only brought so much, like, were they on a budget? Were the Ichikai Ichikai like, look, we can only afford so much kerosene and other flammable things, like, this is all we got in our pockets, like, that's good enough, just start the fire there and the rest will take care of itself, you know?
I just had this rag and this lighter. That was it.
And we didn't even have to buy these are in the office. Freebie.
Look, they had to leave the first Yakuza organization, right? It's like them leaving home with no money, right?
Well, they've got money. They've got a whole ass office building. We see that later in the episode.
Not that much later. Like, we're pretty close to that part.
Yeah, we are pretty close. But in any case, we're back at the Kichijogumi compound, and Ayako's thanking everybody for doing all this, for helping out all these people. There were no casualties. So thank goodness for that. But that having been said, I know we all know who did it. This isn't the case of we're all trying to see who did it. We know who did it. I don't want a single one of you going out there and trying to get retribution. That's not what we do.
Now, if you will excuse me, I have to go to my room and cry now.
Which is literally what she does. She's going into a room and just weeping openly like, I miss my park, memories of my dead husband.
Just so we're clear here, not a single person who was listening to her in the room room where she was telling them, don't go do anything to the Ichikaichi. None of them listened to that suggestion.
In fact,
all of them plan on doing something.
Because they were eavesdropping on her crying in her room, and they're all crying in the hallway.
We've got to go do something about this. And even Ryo is over here like, oh, there was no evidence, huh? Well, good thing I'm not a fucking cop. I don't need it. No stinking evidence.
Well, yeah, he's like going full Batman over here. Batman has no jurisdiction, neither does City Hunter. They just both keep to a very specific area.
But Ryo is just gonna go do this on his own, while the rest of the Yakuza here are deciding they're gonna go work together on their own plan. They've got two separate plans going on here, but only one of these plans is actually going to happen.
Well, because there's this saying I heard, which is actually incredibly true, is that the person who is considering what their life's goal will be overtaken by the person doing their life's goal. And so here...
You think Ryo's life's goal is to kick the ass of another Yakuza family?
I think his goal here is to kick ass and take names.
In this very specific moment.
For the case of a lady. Because that's what happens. He goes down to the Ichikaichi office.
Meanwhile...
Or actually, he doesn't go straight down there, far as we're aware.
Meanwhile, the rest of the Yakuza family, while Ryo is already going down there.
Like, he's gone. He's actually done multiple things, but we'll touch on that in a second.
But the rest of the family is already kind of getting their shit together. One dude... Masaichi is out here. He was kind of planning on going by himself, and all the rest of the Yakuza are like, hey, where are you going? He's like, to pee? Outside? Yes.
What are all of you doing out here?
Also going to pee outside. Oh, well then let's all go pee outside together.
Like, this
very weird conversation.
But it's the joint understanding that we are all actually going to go get retribution under the guise of having to go take a piss.
Together, yeah.
Because that's the important part. Together.
Because that's definitely what dudes do. Go to pee together.
No, we don't. We do not.
Exactly my point.
But yeah, now across town, over at the offices of the Ichikaichi, Otone gets a phone call. It's like, who's this?
It's Ryo on the other end of the phone. You don't hear him for a couple of seconds, but it's him.
And he's being real, like, serial killer on the other end of the phone. Like, hey, I just need you to know. I saw what you did to that lady. You made her cry.
And now you fucked up.
You better stay the hell away from windows, otherwise this is gonna happen.
A whole wrecking ball. Ryo is riding a wrecking ball. This is
way before Miley Cyrus.
This is very pre-Miley Cyrus wrecking ball. He's just standing on top of the wrecking ball. His hand is on the chain.
And the other hand holding this big-ass 80s cell phone.
Because how else was he going to call from a wrecking ball?
Also, where did he get the cell phone? I've never seen him use one.
Josh, we don't see him drive all the other cars that we know he has. He just has a bunch of shit. And sometimes it comes out. And you don't know why he has it. But now you have to understand, he has so much shit that we never look at because he's just waiting for the right time to use it. Also, I bet you he doesn't use it because that phone plan must be insane at that time.
That would be incredibly true. At the time,
he just needed to use it to be this cool badass riding into a wall on a wrecking ball for this one moment. And he's like, yep, that cost me $50 just to make this phone call.
I would just as soon be like, I would rather see Ryo be a badass and be like running down the street, see somebody with a brick cell phone and be like, hey, I need to borrow this real quick, and then do the call that way.
I don't know. I think he's just got one.
I think he would sooner borrow one or steal one.
That having been said, there's a lot of things we do not clearly see here, okay? We don't see how he gets the cell phone. We don't see how he got an entire wrecking ball or the...
crane.
Sure, a whole ass crane. How did he get a whole crane to swing a wrecking ball?
So that's the other thing we don't know because we don't see it is, was there a crane in a neighboring building that he just commandeered? Or did his ass not only go and get a cell phone, whether he had one or not, if he had to go to Japanese Sprint or T-Mobile or whoever was around at the time,
Docomo,
AT&T,
okay?
Docomo, fine, and go get a cell phone plan just to be a badass for like 3 seconds, did he also have to go and rent construction equipment to go and do this thing? Like, the particulars of this, we need to know here at this podcast.
But we don't. We will never find out. We don't see shit.
Because this is what I'm thinking, because, the rest of the episode, compared to other episodes, you would think there'd be a giant-ass fight. Because that room that he broke into was full of Itsuka-ichi dudes, right?
Right, and they're all sitting here proud of themselves, jacking themselves off, like, oh yes, we got them now.
We sure did that arson.
We burned down that park, and that park is fucking ours, man. It's as good as ours. Well, hell no, it's not.
Because you would think, based off literally any other City Hunter episode, that we're about to see a big-ass fight.
Like, Ryo's gonna jump off the wrecking ball and then just start lighting the room up.
He's gonna start wrecking shit, aside from the window. But no, we cut to Ayako waking up from having cried her poor ass to sleep.
And then she realizes, sure, it's quiet out here on my compound. Oh no, literally everybody is gone. Where did they go? Oh shit! They definitely went down to the
Itsuka-ichi office.
They definitely are trying to get retribution. I told those sons of bitches not to do it. And she runs all the way down there. And all the rest of the Yakuza are down there. But they're down outside
street level
staring up at the building. They never even got to go inside, okay? Because Ryo's already there. He's already doing shit. And like not only that,
she comes running up to Masaichi, who's leading all the other Yakuza, and she's like, I told you, don't come down here. This is exactly what they want for us to do. They want us to do a retribution, and they're gonna blame us for all the stuff that happens after it. And he's like, hey, we didn't even do anything. We just got here. And there's a bunch of booms coming from upstairs. We don't know what the hell's going on. And Ryo's over here, he's done some Ozymandias shit. Like, I did this mess 35 minutes ago. Because they look up.
It's so much worse because this is like demolition crew shit. There's explosives or something all throughout this building.
Explosions going off.
Shabam, 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 shabam.
This tactical demolition has happened here, just taking out the single Itsuka-ichi Kai office building, and it just comes crumbling straight down.
Very fortunate, because there's two neighboring buildings barely within like less than a foot
on either
side. So he's very lucky. He's apparently extremely good at demolition, and like, it just comes straight down.
At minimum, I was looking this up from another thing that was done way back when. It would take at minimum 2 weeks to plan the kind of precision demolition that Ryo has just done here at the building of the Itsuka-ichi Kai. And he did it in about 30 minutes to an hour at best.
So this whole building is gone, and I don't know whether the Itsuka-ichi Kai had just like that floor of that building, or if they legitimately just own that entire building.
I would imagine they own the whole building.
But he took out the whole building, so I hope there were no other tenants in that building. And then not only that, they're all there, tied all the way up on the top of this crane with a sign saying, "We were the arsonists!" And they're very upset, and they're scared, and they're crying, and they're like, fine, we did it! We burned the park down! Oh my god, just let me go!
Like, he pulled a Batman, he pulled a Spider-Man, just leaving their asses out to hang with a note.
With an Ozymandias kind of tacked on there as well. So he's done just all this comic book shit, and he's gone. He's gone. He's nowhere to be found.
They go back to the compound the next morning, and he's just out. Completely. He is tired. His ass has had a full night. Well, if you did
2 weeks worth of demolition in 30 minutes to an hour, wouldn't you also be tired?
Yeah, I'd need a nap, I imagine. But like, because everybody knows, well, clearly this was Ryo. This right here is the power of City Hunter. Literally everyone's expectation and treatment of him has changed. Complete 180. Now they have all of the reverence for Ryo.
And now the rest of the Yakuza family are like, well, fine, I guess he's worthy of being the next chairman and marrying into our Yakuza family. He might be the only one that our matriarch even cares about. So we're just going to set up a very kind of shotgun wedding sort of a situation here.
This very convoluted, like, well, he did get retribution for our enemies. The least we can do is make sure he gets some.
The least we can do is give him a shotgun wedding so that he becomes our leader. That is what they want
by
now.
Tricking him into thinking he's gonna get some.
Right.
So, like, they wake him up the next morning, and instead of, like, being like, oh, they're not even really talking to him or addressing him, now they've gone from, like, Ryo to Ryo Saeba. Like, they put an honorific on his ass.
Yeah, they sure did. And they said, hey, we drew up a bath. And he's like, leave me the fuck alone. I'm fucking tired. And they're like, oh, well, thought you might have wanted to know that the madam is taking a bath right now, but I guess we'll just leave you alone. Bye.
And they know what they did. They gave him this information on purpose.
And it's specifically so that he will sneak in to this bathroom and find their matriarch in the bath, and then they're gonna pop in and say, haha, caught you. Now, either you get married to her because the two of you are bathing together without being married.
Being improper.
Or you cut off your pinky finger, and you don't want to cut off your pinky finger, so you may as well just get married. That's their plan. Unfortunately, their plan only goes so far, because Ryo, mind you, they've got Ryo cold, because this is exactly what he does. He's like, well, yes, I'm gonna go to this bath, and I'm gonna try and go get in the bath with this woman.
What I appreciate, though, is as Ryo is getting ready to do this, Masaichi is explaining everything you just said to the audience, but really to that other big bald guy, and at least big bald guy was like, hey, I don't think that's such a good idea, you know, he's kind of a lecherous dude, and maybe he's not the best person to have our matriarch married off to. Maybe we should reconsider.
Other guy's like, nah, this is totally gonna work. Okay. I'm glad he understands this is a bad idea.
And see, one thing I was noticing from all of the stuff, all the excitement from the night before, was where was Kaori? Because she wasn't there outside the Itsukaichi building. She wasn't even at the compound either. Did she just go home for the night or not?
Maybe she was just sick of all this shit.
I don't know. Like, maybe she just threw on some music and she's like, I'm going to bed. I don't know.
I don't know.
But Ryo makes it to the bath. He, like, slides the door open. He sees there is a woman on the other side, undressed.
And he doesn't even think about it because he's like, hey, as far as I'm aware, this all lines up with everything these other guys told me was happening, so I'm gonna take off all my clothes and jump right on it. Oh, how's it going, Kaori? Why is Kaori the one in the bath? How did this happen? How did this confusion happen? And the other Yakuza guys come in like, haha, we caught you. Oh, you are not.
That's not the madam.
That's not the person we thought that this was going to be. And now Kaori has kicked all of them out through the wall.
She has yeeted all three of them through a brick wall.
And Ryo's like, so can you guys explain this? No, actually, I'm kind of confused myself. I don't really know how this happened. We really thought she was going to be in there.
And so once that fails, Masaichi comes up with another backup plan to be like, hey, Ryo, I know that didn't work out, but we know for sure that the madam went to the park. So you need to go to the park right now.
So they go to the park.
And yeah, it's nothing but ash and the remnants of trees in this area, which is the important area that meant something to Ayako and the late Daisuke.
But Ayako's there getting her art on, actually. Like, something in her has kind of woken up and is ready to do the arting again.
And see, this is actually the best part of the show, I think, for this episode, is she's talking to Ryo about it, because Ryo's like, how come you couldn't paint yesterday, but you can paint now? And she seems to have gotten through her head the thing that really a lot of people need when it comes to things like grief and things like that. She's realized that to get through all this, she needs to compartmentalize everything that she was holding on to right in front of her own face, really in her mind. Everything having to do with her husband hasn't necessarily gone away. He might not physically be there, but her memory still remains, and it's just as strong as it ever was, and she will never lose that canvas, that painting of their relationship in her mind is. And so she's free now, realizing that she can look at that whenever she wants, to start painting a new canvas of new memories in her mind.
It's that whole idea that so long as memories keep living inside you, they don't ever really die. It's that kind of concept that she's learned for herself now.
And in most cases, I would say for myself, you know, for a lot of us, you know, we've had our dealings with loss here and there. It's easier said than done to realize that for yourself, that so long as you have the memories, those times will never go away, those people never really go away. Mm-hmm. And when people tell you that initially, you don't believe them because it's not working yet.
Yeah, for a while you're like, oh, you're full of shit. The first few days, especially after losing someone, you look around the world and you're like, holy shit, how is the world still spinning? And all these people around you are like going on about their lives like nothing has happened, but to you, the whole world just collapsed right out from under you. You can't even look around and be like, why is this normal when nothing is normal? normal.
Well, it's the whole thing that you see the world in terms of what's missing.
Right.
Because you see the hole that person has left in your life. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is, for some people, it really is that whole thing that they say of, what was it, Vision says it in WandaVision, of what is grief if not love persevering? Mm-hmm. That if you have this much affection for a person, it's not coming from a bad place. You know, you still feel something strongly for this person. They're just not here directly in front of you at the moment. But she's realized that in order to go on and move on with her life and live a life, because she's still, by all accounts, very young, mm-hmm. she still has time to do this, and now she has the will to do this.
Which is great. She's learned something new. And now Ryo is very supportive of this, of course. That having been said, all of the other dudes who've brought Ryo to the park, Kaori's also here too. They're all kind of watching like, oh, is something romantic gonna happen here now? Actually, no. Nothing romantic is happening here. What we're seeing instead is she is saying now she can start life anew. Now maybe she can start considering, is it possible to fall in love again after this? She wasn't even prepared. She wasn't even ready to start feeling anything for anybody yet. But because they realized that she has realized that, now they realize, so wait, does she not have feelings for Ryo?
No, she wasn't capable of it. Now she's capable of loving somebody. It just isn't Ryo.
Certainly not yet. And so everybody's like,
literally everybody in the
then
Kichijo
it could be me!
So you're telling me there's a chance? And all of these guys who are trying to play coy and hide in the bushes just come stampeding through the bushes, running straight over Ryo like it's Black Friday.
This is embarrassing to me, because I just know what this looks like. This is so embarrassing.
Because if there's one thing, and I'm saying this from what I've seen in my experience, not me personally, I've never done this, but I've seen it. When you see that somebody that you have affection for is now back on the market, you can tell when somebody has been thinking about them for a very long time with just how much passion and how quickly they try to swoop in.
I know. And that's all these dudes. And that's why I'm like, I'm so embarrassed. You guys should be ashamed. Stop this immediately. If something's gonna happen, just let it happen. Stop it.
Your zipper is down. We can see you're simping from here.
I hate the word simping, but like in this case, like if the shoe fits, I mean.
If the shoe fits, they're running over Ryo. But for what it's worth, I do appreciate that they don't immediately say, please go out with me. They all say, congratulations on getting over your grief. Which, you know, that's good, but we all know you have an ulterior motive.
And on top of that, like, it doesn't mean you stop being sad.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that, I just woke up and I'm just not sad anymore. Like,
it doesn't really work like that.
No, there's still gonna be days where, like, she goes and walks around a store and then some song starts playing or something, and then, you just this blubbering.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you don't have bad days.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you're eating something and then a memory comes back. That happens. And so she breaks away for a second. Ayako breaks away and tells Ryo, well, thank you for all this. I really appreciate it. Would you do me the kindness of accepting this painting I'm making as payment? And Ryo's like, yeah, you know what? That's fine. I can work with that. And now she's smiling, being with the other guys. And Kaori's like, well, I guess it's spring for everybody right now.
And especially for me, says Ryo. But it's spring for you all the time. And he's like, it sure is.
And by spring, I mean the thing in my pants.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. And Still Love Her starts playing, and that's the end of this two-parter.
Not a super complicated episode.
No, really?
Also not a lot of, like, hidden things in the background or in various little cells somewhere.
Like really, I don't even think this needed to be a full 20 minutes. I feel like if you had cut a little bit out of the first episode, we could have wrapped this up in one episode. Like, this feels like it got stretched.
Maybe. We really needed the lines about everybody going out to pee together, though.
We really needed to know about
very important.
But it's like, I appreciate the message about what it is to get over grief and move on with your life and open yourself up to love again, which is very important. Mm-hmm. I just wish we had seen more of how the hell Ryo did all the things he did the night before.
It would have been very cool to watch Ryo get to be the most incredible demolitionist you've ever seen.
The original Demolition Man over here. Forget Stallone, Ryo handled that shit.
Somehow, we know he did it. We just don't know how specifically it was done.
Like, for 2 seconds, I put it out there in my mind of, what if it was something as simple and stupid as the Itsukai Ichigumi had already booby-trapped their own place, just in case they needed to get rid of people who were getting in there, and Ryo just used that against them. But that's me giving them too much credit, I realize.
Why would they have done all of that to their own that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I'm trying to remember, like, in the original Yakuza game, like, it's only the top floor that's booby-trapped, right? With explosives? It's not the whole building?
Yeah,
Right,
no.
okay. So, like, that was the other thing I was wondering about, but then I answered my own question of, like, well, how come Ryo didn't just blow up the top floor that clearly had all the offices with all the people in it? And it's like, no, he was that upset about them making Ayako cry, he had to make sure the whole building went down.
Right, exactly. That's how much he gathered that much explosives. He gathered that much explosives, Josh.
Or he just had that much explosive on him.
Or
maybe,
on him? Like, how?
well, you're the one over here saying that he has a bunch of stuff we never see. What if he just has
know,
the
I
stockpile
know.
of C4?
No, that's the thing, is that, yes, that is what I think. I still want to know how, though. That's the whole... I'm saying the same thing you're saying.
It's the Batman answer, prep time. He just had all that stuff. Or maybe he went
Prep
over...
time? You're the one who said, oh, he did it in like an hour.
Yeah, but he didn't need that much prep time. Or was it just as simple as he called up Umibozu to be like, hey man, I gotta go rent some construction equipment. Can you go to this address and plant some C4 for me? And he was like, yeah, okay. Like, I would have liked to have seen that if that had been what happened.
Well, that's what I'm saying is, sure, you can guess that would be what happened, but we didn't see any of it. We do not have the answers.
I just wish we did.
I
Is
know,
all I'm saying.
I do too.
Yeah. So next week on the show, we're dealing with another two-parter of this little girl in a wheelchair, and it's going to be a real tear-jerker kind of episode, real sad, kind of heartwarming. The first part is, it's standard City Hunter fare. It's the second part of this upcoming two-parter that's kind of a standout episode, not so much for the plot, but for the music.
Real weird. I mean, we're not going to get to describing that part for another 2 weeks, but, cool.
Yeah, because it's one of these few things that happen in older anime where there's just real blatant borrowing or straight up stealing of
licensed music.
Yeah.
It's really clear what they were trying to borrow from.
So, yeah, you gotta wait 2 weeks for that, but for the time being, we're gonna cover the front part of that two-parter next week. Little girl, real cute. Ryo's gonna make her world better. Or try, at least.
I hope so. I mean, we know so.
We do, but
we've seen this show.
But you're going to come with us on that journey.
Okay, great. So come back next time when we cover the 47th episode of City Hunter 2, Wanting to Fall in Love Just Like a Dream, The Strategy of a 12-Year-Old Angel, Part 1.
And if you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on most social media. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 97th episode of MokkoriPlay. And if you don't come back next episode, Josh is getting hurt in a very generic sort of way.
Wow, you really had nothing this week, did you?
Neither did Kaori.
I mean, fair.